The purpose of this video is to introduce you to SoFresh, a pen-based behavior modification and staff support system that's currently being used at E.B. Williams Stoner Hill Elementary in Shreveport, Louisiana. The creator of SoFresh is Dietrich Phelps, a paraprofessional, and I am Jeff Lee, a certified teacher. Brief history. So I've divided this into three eras, so to speak. Prior to my arrival at Stoner Hill, the implementation of SoFresh, it was 100% implemented by Mr. Phelps, and there was nothing on paper. He's been a paraprofessional for, I believe it's year number 9 now. So when I arrived in 2018 to 2019, my first year, it was my first year at Stoner Hill last year, and it was my second year in public education. And that's when I observed the system in play. Mr. Phelps and I, we discussed a lot about, hey, what's the philosophy, what's the thinking, what's the reasoning behind SoFresh and how it operates. So that getting acquainted with the system, seeing how it worked in action and whatnot, that's when I was in. Knowing how it was at my previous school, which I will get to at the very end of this presentation. He brought me in, and we worked together on improving the system. So here we are. It's my second year at Stoner Hill for the 2019-2020 school year, and so far we've implemented the OWL pins. We started doing that in week 2 across 3 grade levels. 3rd grade was a little bit late to join, but 4th and 5th were the first 2 to get the ball rolling. At this time, we're seeking other schools to help run the system as well, to be a part of it. Ideally, maybe halfway into the school year, preferably sooner the better. We'll have, I don't know, maybe a handful of schools doing this, and hopefully they'll see improvements, like less referrals, less suspensions, etc., things of that nature. And although Mr. Phelps and I have discussed this, this is subject to change, by the way. We are looking to have teachers of the same grade level join and implement the system without going to your principal. Now, if it has to go through your principal, okay, so be it. But ideally, we would like to see, let's just say if you're at school X, we'd like to have all of your 3rd grade teachers and your 2nd grade teachers in on it, completely bought in, running the system. Now this is what the system looks like when it's in play. This is the umbrella represents the pin system, and it's shielding everyone from the rain. In this case, it's probably poor student behavior. So who can grab onto it? Well, everyone. You have all the way up for administration, all the way down to substitutes. You could have a substitute just walk in and say, and you inform the sub, hey, listen, just take their pins if they misbehave, as opposed to whatever the teacher has or doesn't have in place regarding poor behavior. Maybe that specific teacher has poor classroom management, poor procedures, poor rules. That would hurt the substitute. Well, in this case, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Sub, all you have to do is take the pins. So that's one way it would assist with substitutes. With cafeteria staff, RTI staff, you let them in. You let everyone in on it, on how the system works. So this way, if you have kids goofing off in cafeteria, the staff can simply take their pin. That's it. Problem solved there. They don't get their reward midday. But more on this later. So, creating value. With the proper buy-in from staff, you're going to be part of a team that creates value. Let's think about this. What tools or resources are available to teachers when it comes to controlling and improving behavior? Do you have anything other than the school's PBIS store? Did you answer nothing? Are you me? Am I you? Does all of this sound too familiar? We're all in this situation where the only item we're allowed, unless stated otherwise, to take is recess. Once you take away recess due to poor behavior, you have nothing. Recess is the only card you have in your hand. With the pin system, you've created value, aka a bargaining chip. Now you have a daily reward to take away or a Friday party to take away. Furthermore, and this is a true story, parent complaints won't affect the system because the school doesn't control the system. If mean old Johnny is moved out of the Friday party because of his poor behavior, and he complains to mom or dad, and mom or dad goes to the principal, well, you know what? What are they going to do? Tell us to stop? I mean, there's nothing that the parent can do to take away from what everyone else may have earned. So let's go over who is directly involved in this system, and by that I mean their students wear the pins. Also, those individuals, those teachers, enforce the reward. So at Stoner Hill, we have 6 regular education teachers, 3rd through 5th. You have myself. I have mild, moderate, 3rd through 5th, and 1 paraprofessional, Mr. Phelps, who's indirectly involved. And by that we mean these are individuals who are aware of the system and they have the power to take away student pins, thus affecting their reward. So we have enrichment teachers, support staff, administration, any other regular or special education teacher or staff that requires assistance. So wherever these kids are, if they misbehave, just take their pin, take away the reward. Because if we didn't have this system in place, you're like you don't have these indirectly involved individuals. What can they do, right? You need something in place, and that is why the pin system is the umbrella. So here is a direct involvement example number 1. In the regular education classroom, student X has amazing behavior for the AM, morning bell to enrichment. Their teacher, on the way out to enrichment, rewards them with the pin. Assuming they don't lose it in the hallway, they'll get their midday reward after lunch. That's how we've structured it. Now, again, and I will mention this later on, if you need to make changes to make it work for you, then you do that. But still, some of the principles remain. The reward has to be something they care about. More on this later. And it has to be given midday. They need something to focus, to keep the eye on the ball. Keep their eyes on the ball. Indirect involvement example number 1. Grade X goes to enrichment. Before the pins, if the students were out of line, the enrichment teacher has no way of influencing their behavior other than whatever tools they've developed. Now, because of the pin system, the enrichment teacher has leverage over whether or not the student receives their midday reward. The same, and I touched on this earlier, the same goes with support staff. Another example. The 1st or 2nd grade teacher has a student with behavioral issues. She sends the student to a staff member directly involved. The result, the student is given a pin, placed in the same system as the other students. And this is a true story. His midday reward is now tied to his behavior. This teacher is now under the umbrella's protection. Now, this specific child, he or she checks in with us, comes to my homeroom, and checks in with Mr. Phelps and myself every single day. We document this. Now, if we didn't have this pin system, well, again, what's going to happen? The student gets in trouble. He goes to the office. Admin holds him for whatever time. He cools off. He goes back. And the process could repeat within minutes, right? There's no, like, what do we hope to accomplish in a system like that? Probably nothing. Also, and again, I will touch on this later on. This is where you need to be a team. We need team players to make this work. Could I say, hey, I don't want to be responsible for this 1st or 2nd grader child, his behavior is with you, not me. Go away. I could do that, but it's as part of a team. We're all in it together. Who knows? Maybe that child, let's say he's placed in special education. He's tested in this special education the following year. Well, guess what? He might be with me. Okay, then he's going to be my problem. So you have to think of this as this long term. If we nip the bud, if we fix the problem at 1st grade, then hey, whether or not he tests in special education or he stays in regular education, his future has changed. We're changing we're changing lives, we're changing their projected future from something negative to something more positive by doing this. Okay, so you're thinking, why not send the child to the office? Yes, that's a perfectly reasonable thought, but then what? What's the end game? The child goes to the office each time over and over and returns to you. Did we solve anything? We've seen this movie before. Nothing changes. The cycle repeats itself in an infinite loop. Now, the next few slides, you're going to get very, very wordy, and it's because I have to be as specific as possible. So I apologize if it gets to be too much. Okay, they aren't scared. Did you ever consider that having their parents called, getting some type of suspension, being sent to the office, it doesn't faze them at all? For some students, it's all they ever know. You know it doesn't do any good for all parties involved. The office can't babysit them, administration has other things to do, being out of the homeroom means they aren't learning. No one wins except you and your 20-minute break. When that student comes back, it's like watching the same movie again. Or it's like being on the train tracks and a train is coming at you, and you know you can get off and dodge now a train, but then when the train passes, you're back on the tracks and here comes that train again. Something has to change. Conclusion. Just by knowing that we have a PIN system in place that is used to modify behavior, this teacher, that first or second grade teacher that I use as an example with the behavior issue child, who was outside of the umbrella is now inside and receiving help. It's a win for the teacher, administration, and the student. And it's all because we have a system in place, and because myself and Mr. Phelps were team players. In addition, you have to think of this as an investment. How much instructional time do you lose a day? Would 30 to 45 minutes be a fair amount? That's 2.5 hours to 3 3/4 per week. You have to see this as an investment that's going to help you cut down on lost instructional time. You put a little bit of it in every single day, and you get at least equal value back, if not more. And a quick one more comment on this. Hopefully, you can get your first and second grade teachers to be in on this, because from my experience, third grade, and this is where I was in my first year, which was 2 years ago. Third grade is sort of like, well, it's the first testing grade, and it's also when kids, hey, if they're going to act out or they're going to be angels, it's make or break in third grade. So the younger you start this program, hey, the greater your gains and your dividends. Let's take a step back and list what this does for the school and its staff. Assuming the grade level below you follows the system, you won't have to explain this procedure again. Whew, thank goodness. The amount of poor future behavior this cuts down is immeasurable. Again, you're doing this, you're changing lives, changing it from negative behavior to positive. This you're in it for the long run, not just to curb your behavior for the next 3 to 4 weeks. No, this is long term. You're doing favors. You're doing a favor for support staff, enrichment teachers, and administration by keeping students out of the office. Again, it's a win for everyone. The heart of the system is the reward. Not a teacher-centered reward, but one that the student loves. For us, it's a mix of recess, Talkies, and freeze pops, also called flavored ice. We just call them freeze pops. If the reward doesn't matter to the students, you have nothing. Don't ask them about. Don't assume. Oh, they love cupcakes. They want iPad time. No. You get them to tell you what they want. That's feasible. And before discussing what rewards we use and when we give them the reward, keep in mind that you can do what works for you. The system is flexible as long as you adhere to the principle. You can change a few things to make it work. The system and its principle cannot be changed, but there are a few things that can be changed. I just repeated that twice. For example, if you can't afford XYZ on a daily basis, find an alternative that the students are okay with. We discovered today, literally today, September 16th, 2019, that our 5th grade, they want recess. They want that midday recess. So tomorrow we're going to give that to them. Now, ideally, they probably want even like a freeze pop, Talkies, and a midday recess, but all of that ain't going to happen. They're just going to get their recess and be happy with it. And we'd recommend, whether it's through verbal questioning or a survey, finding out what they want as a reward. You're looking for a daily reward. If you have enough team players, throw in a Friday reward. In our system, we have a daily reward and a Friday reward. More on this one later. The daily reward is broken down into an AM and a PM reward. The AM reward could be, for example, freeze pops. It's given after lunch to those that have kept their pin. The PM reward, recess, is given after the 3 o'clock bell. If you don't have the resources, give them an AM and PM recess. At my old school, recess was, I think, like 11. It was between enrichment and lunch, so it was like 11:30 to 11:40. But then the playground was on the opposite side of the school, so it made no sense. So sometimes they wouldn't get recess. So it's a pin to reward system. That's it. Physically, that would be correct. However, it isn't that simple. The easiest way is to show precisely how we run it at Stoner Hill Elementary. As we go step by step, you'll begin to see the additional elements that are put into play. Okay, so here we go. This is actually the fourth grade schedule. It is, okay. So in the morning, after they've used the bathroom and they're lined up in however many rows, we go by classroom, so our by homeroom, and we have 2 fourth grade teachers, so we've got 2 rows. You have to remind the students about their pin and their midday reward. You're helping them keep focus. Some of them just forget it. I mean, short attention spans. So the schedule format is based on 4th grade. You'll make modifications as needed. So in the morning, when they get into class, do not hand out pins. They are there to be earned in class. This is how 4th grade does it. In the morning, they have ELA and social studies for the first 2.5 hours. So notes, as the clock gets closer to 10:30, teachers are handing out pins based on their behavior. Once the transition begins, all students are given pins. Those that aren't, this is incorrect. Every student is given a pin. But they will be told, although you didn't earn it in class, you'll still have a chance for the reward if you don't lose it during the hallway, enrichment, and lunch. We realized that one flaw in the system is that students could just purposely crash and burn inside the homeroom. And then, hey, they'll maintain it for enrichment and lunch, and they'll get their reward. That is a flaw in the system. We recognize this. Now, we're keeping it this way because we can't change the whole system because of a handful of misbehaving kids. We're simply casting the net as wide as possible and catching as many fishes as we can. And we cannot catch them all. So during enrichment and lunch, this is where your enrichment teachers and support staff come into play. If they're in on the system and they have the power to take the pin away from students that demonstrate poor behavior. If the system didn't exist, what would they have? They would have no leverage, no bargaining chips. The system helps to maintain good behavior for the enrichment teachers and lunch staff duty. And boy, do they appreciate it. They do, because now they have something to leverage against those talkers. If a non-teacher takes the pin, the student loses their midday reward. It's one thing to waste a teacher's time, right? Your homeroom teacher. It's one thing. But then to waste someone who's like an enrichment teacher, someone you don't see all the time, it's more of it's a different scale. I'm not sure how to fully explain this. Like if you disrespect a stranger, it's different than disrespecting your parent, right? It's a different consequence. It's a different level of disrespect. But now this is one of those things that maybe you can change. If a non-teacher takes the pin, let's say RTI staff, okay, well, they don't get their midday reward, but they have a chance to get their end-of-day reward. Again, some things are flexible. So now, after lunch, they're in the breezeway. After using the bathroom, classes will form one straight line. We will have 2 classes per grade level. You will adjust as necessary. Once that line is ready, we filter students into 3 lines. You have straight line, A line, and I don't care line. Straight line, you have your solid students. A line, they're 50-50. And don't care line, well, they're the ones that perform terribly. Put them on the wall, separate them so they don't have a little party with themselves. This is the part where you need other teachers and support staff to help the process. This is what we do. With the daily reward being freeze pops, we have person A, Mr. Phelps, form them into a straight line. With information from the teachers, usually through a text, they're separated into the line they deserve to be in. Now, how did they get from A line to straight line? Well, now we don't tell them, hey, you need 3 good days of solid behavior. It all depends on just Hey, we might keep a secret number and say, Mr. Phelps, what's that? They've been doing great for like 4 days now. Okay, let's move them over. Or maybe we look at those on A line who, like the top one or two who are very, very close to being on straight line, and we say, okay, you know what? We're going to give you a chance. Move on to straight line. Go have your midday recess. Let's see how this goes for the rest of the day. So, while that takes place, person B, usually me, I get the reward ready. Once lines are formed, the reward is passed out to those on the straight line that have their pins. It's a trade. They give me a pin. Well, they give a student the pin who's right next to me with a plastic bag, and I give them the reward. It's a trade. Again, the system is flexible. If you choose to give them a 10 to 15 minute recess, then you'll have to work out a procedure to make it happen with the resources, i.e. manpower, you have available. Once rewards are given and all pins are returned to the teachers, we typically have Mr. Phelps provide a speech lesson about control. This is your Braveheart moment. By control, he refers to those that are and aren't able to control their mouths and their bodies. In addition, it's also a time to remind the students that they've made it through halfway through the day, and if they can earn their pins once more, they'll have their end-of-day reward. The goal here is to emphasize that their goal is to move from the worst line to the best line, which is straight line. To not let those on the lower lines drag you down to their level. This is a speech I gave about a week ago, and I modeled it. I called them, like straight line, I call them 10s. A line, I call them 5s. Don't care, I call them 1s. And I told straight line, you guys are 10s because you're solid. You get your rewards every day. Don't let A line or don't let the 5s and the 1s drag you down. Mr. Phelps trains our students through the use of commands. Think military. Very simple commands such as check up, where individual students stomp their right foot once, position their arms parallel to the ground, and place their fists together. It's all about just a little bit of discipline, a little bit of focus. That's all it is. Our students are trained for a handful of actions and or sayings. At this point in time, don't worry about being informed or trained on all or any of them. The focus right now is perfecting the execution of the system. And pardon me, 1 second. Okay, so this is an example of the Midday Reward. I took this actually today, September 16th, 2019. So recess, the playground, is to the right here. This is the final building, E-wing, and our recess is on the right. Now, these are all straight line. These are all the good kids. They're straight line. Now, Mr. Phelps is down there holding down. Let's see, this should be A line and oh, these look like the I don't cares right here. They're separated, and A line is standing right here. So this is where, again, you need some teamwork. You need staff to come in. Now, this is my break. All right, I could just go into my room and chill, but I don't. I'm a team player. I'm here to support Mr. Phelps. Mr. Phelps is on duty, but what we're doing is we're just helping out the 4th grade teachers. After 4th grade goes in, then 5th grade comes out, and we do the same with them. Okay, so again, these are all A-line students. They all did well today. And no one has their pins because they already gave their pins in order to get their reward. Teamwork is required. You'll need support staff to assist you at certain times. There I am, right now. If I were absent, well, hopefully we have an RTI staff member who can come out and watch them. Teamwork. Oh, okay. I meant to put this in an earlier slide, I think. Or it might be it's in the right place. The final half of the day is no different than the first few hours of the morning. All students have to re-earn their pin in order to have their afternoon reward. Our recess time is end of day, so it makes sense for us to do it. If yours is different, I mean, you got to make this work. Get your schedule modified. Okay, so this is the special So Fresh Friday reward. This is the weekly reward. In order to participate, students have to earn their way with, you guessed it, the pin. For us, in order for a student to participate, they must have 3 solid days of behavior. We define this as you need to give me, your teacher, the pin at the end of the day for 3 solid days. This means they're allowed to have 2 bad days. As you progress through the year, you may tighten things up and ask for 4 solid days. On Friday, when 2:40 hits, this is what we do. All students, in or out, walk to the wing nearest the playground. Those that make it go to the playground. Those that don't are escorted back to their homeroom. What happens when they reach the playground? This is where you'll need support staff ready, like Mr. Phelps and maybe RTI staff. They should be out there with whatever the team has agreed out to have out as their reward. For us, we give them a freeze pop, optional, and a bag of Talkies. In addition, we have a tailgate music box that plays music that they listen to. You can buy one of these for like $50 to $60 on Amazon. Again, you gotta invest. That's what this is about. You'll need someone to download the songs, clean versions, off YouTube. Copy the link from YouTube, put it into this little bar at ytmate.com. It'll convert it to an MP3, and then you download it, transfer it to your cell phone, and connect it to the music box via Bluetooth. So that's pretty much how we run the behavior modification system on a daily basis, plus So Fresh Friday. There are a few additional things that we, Mr. Phelps and I, do for students that need stronger support, but I've excluded that information. For now, the goal for anyone reading and watching is to learn the system. Furthermore, should you decide to run the system, the more staff that buy into it, the better. The lowest grade we have running the system is 3rd grade. Depending on how things go, maybe we get 2nd grade to join in. Starting the system / structure at an earlier grade level is definitely a plus. This goes back to, listen, if you get them on the right track in 2nd, then they'll shape themselves. Then if you mold them at 1st or 2nd, then hey, you'll get a good mold for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It's not a guarantee, but it's likely. If students are exposed to and learn the system in 2nd grade, they'll know the expectations in future grades. We're always trying to modify and evolve the system. If whatever works great for you and vice versa, we'd like to know about it to help perfect the system. It's not a magic pill, it's not going to solve anything, but we hope it helps with the majority of your problems. Here are some details about the startup cost. The pins themselves, for 100, it's $30. The ice pops, you can get them at Sam's Club. Let me click on this. There it is. $8.48 with tax. $8.48 with tax. Let's just say it's like $9.50, right? How much should I put? Oh, I put 9. Okay. A case of Talkies again at Sam's. With tax, I just made it $13.50 just to be on the safe side. So if you did do ice pops once a day, and then you did your box of Talkies, well, it comes out to $11.25 per teacher per week. So that's $45 a month. If that's too much for you, well, then cut out the Talkies. Then it'll be 9 times 4. It'll be $28 a month. If the Talkies are too much, you can substitute it with any item they like. If you think that, hey, recess is good enough, okay, fine, you do recess. You do you. Let them experience it. Other notes, for the first week only, always, regardless of behavior, give them the reward. Why? We want the kids to experience the reward. Think of it like winning the lottery. Once you win the lottery, you'll definitely want to win it again. This means you'll keep coming back for more. In this case, the students need to feel the excitement and taste of the reward. Once they do, they'll want it again. If they never experience it, they may not care for the reward. If a student never makes it into So Fresh Friday because of their poor behavior, and you say, hey, listen, little Johnny, you won't get in So Fresh Friday for the 5th straight week in a row if you don't shape up. Well, little Johnny has never experienced So Fresh Friday. He has no connection to it. So why does he care? There's no connection. Pin photos. This is the regular pin. It's white, it has hashtag So Fresh, and it has an owl. Our mascot is the owl. That's why we use the owl. And this is the power pin. This is something that we give 2 per teacher. And these are for students that never get in trouble. They're perfect models. And we give them the power to take away pins from the non-power pin students. So they're also like monitors. But don't worry about this too much because the goal of this video is to just get you acquainted with the system, not these extras. And there it is. The So Fresh pen, the power pin. Now, a couple of side notes. First, you have to imagine how the student feels. This is why we give them this midday reward and the end of day reward. So our schedule is 2.5 hours in the morning. And, sorry, If it were 2.5 hours for you, you'd probably say, I can't stand it. You would just be like the student, like this is a conference. When in the world, of course we've all done this during the summer, right? PDs, 2.5 hours. Ugh, they can't stand it. You can't stand it. Well, how would you feel about this? Don't you want something midday, something that you can keep a focus on, like a light at the end of the tunnel? Well, this is it. This is why the system is here. For enrichment and lunch, finally they get some downtime. But that's all they get. That is literally all they get. Because once they go back into the homeroom, 3 hours of class. This must be a conference, right? They can't, it's intolerable. You need something, you need a light at the middle of the tunnel, and you need a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so, trial by fire. In my first year of public education, I was at a school that was, let's just say, a very toxic environment. Because of this, I've come to appreciate the idea of So Fresh. Behavior modification programs such as this should be taught in college. However, it isn't, and when teachers are thrown into the deep end of the pool, they end up drowning and decide to leave public education. If we had So Fresh in every single school running from 2nd to 5th grade and what have you, teachers probably would stay longer than the first 5 years. Of course, that's what statistics say, right? We burn out in the first 5 years and we leave the profession. So Fresh could change that. So this concludes everything I have on So Fresh. If you have any questions, feel free to send Mr. Phelps or myself a question. We will be available. Hey, you're a teacher, I'm a teacher. You know what the schedule's like. So we'll be around. Thank you very much for watching.